In the heart of the 13th century, one city stood as the beacon of civilization. Baghdad, the capital of the Abbasid Caliphate, a metropolis of over 1 million souls, was the world's center for science, art, and philosophy. Its house of wisdom held the accumulated knowledge of generations, a library that dwarfed any other on earth. For 500 years, it was the jewel of the Islamic world, a city thought to be eternal. But in 1258, the world held its breath as a storm gathered on the horizon. A storm of hooves, arrows, and destruction, led by a name that would echo in terror for centuries. Hulagu Khan, grandson of the legendary Genghis Khan. The Mongol Empire was the largest land empire the world had ever seen. By the mid-13th century, its momentum was unstoppable. From the Pacific Ocean to the doorstep of Europe, kingdoms and empires had fallen before the might of the Mongol hordes. Their next target was the heart of the Islamic world, and at its center was Baghdad. The Caliph Al-Mustasim was the spiritual head of Sunni Islam, but his political power had waned. He ruled over a city that was rich in culture but militarily weak, plagued by internal divisions and a sense of complacency. He believed the city's prestige, its very spiritual significance, would protect it. He was tragically mistaken. Hulagu Khan's mission was clear: subdue the remaining Islamic powers that had not yet bent the knee to the Great Khan. He sent an ultimatum to the Caliph in Baghdad, demanding his submission and the dismantling of the city's defenses. The message was simple: surrender and you will be spared. Resist and you will face annihilation. Caliph Al-Mustasim, advised by courtiers who fatally underestimated the Mongol threat, responded with a mix of defiance and arrogance. He reminded Hulagu of the wrath of God and the unity of the Muslim world that would rise to defend its caliph. It was a bluff the Mongols were more than willing to call. In the autumn of 1257, a colossal Mongol army, possibly numbering 150,000 men, began its march. This was no ordinary army. It was a multinational force, drawing on the best engineers, siege experts, and soldiers from across their vast empire. Chinese crossbowmen who could fire massive bolts, Persian engineers who could build sophisticated siege engines, and, of course, the legendary Mongol cavalry, masters of the composite bow and coordinated attack. The march towards Baghdad was a methodical, terrifying advance. The Mongols weren't just warriors. They were masters of psychological warfare. They took the fortress of the infamous assassins at Alamat, a feat previously thought impossible, sending a clear message that no one was safe. As the new year of 1258 dawned, the Mongol army arrived at the gates of Baghdad. They surrounded the city, a sea of warriors stretching as far as the eye could see. On the eastern bank of the Tigris River, Hulag's main force began constructing a palisade, and a ditch, preparing for a long siege. On the western bank, another contingent of Mongol troops cut off any chance of escape or reinforcement. Baghdad was trapped. The siege began on January 29th. The sky filled with a terrifying thud of catapults hurling massive rocks against the ancient walls. Flaming arrows rained down upon the city's defenders. The noise was deafening, a constant drumbeat of impending doom. Inside, the city, panic and chaos reigned. The Caliph's army, a meager force of perhaps 50,000, attempted a sortie, a desperate charge out of the city gates to break the Mongol lines. It was a disaster. The Mongols, masters of feigned retreats, lured the Abbasid soldiers into a trap. They flooded the fields behind the attackers, turning the ground into a muddy quagmire. Weighed down by their armor, the Caliph's best troops were bogged down and systematically slaughtered. The main defense of Baghdad was broken in a single catastrophic engagement. The city's fate was sealed. Seeing the hopelessness of his situation, Caliph Al-Mustasim attempted to negotiate. He sent envoys offering tribute and submission. But it was too late. Hulagu Khan had been insulted by the Caliph's initial defiance. For the Mongols, once a war had begun, the only acceptable outcome was total victory. Hulagu tricked the Caliph, promising safety for the city's notables and soldiers if they laid down their arms and came out. Thousands did, only to be separated from their weapons and executed. The Mongols showed no mercy. On February 10th, the city of Baghdad officially surrendered. The gates were thrown open to the conquerors. What followed was one of the most brutal and devastating sacks of a city in human history. For an entire week, Baghdad was subjected to an orgy of destruction. Hulagu Khan unleashed his army upon the defenseless population. The soldiers who had been promised the city's riches went on a rampage. They slaughtered men, women, and children without distinction. The streets, once bustling with poets and scholars, ran red with blood. The screams of the dying filled the air, a sound so horrific that, according to one chronicler, Hulagu had to move his camp upwind to escape the stench of death. The scale of the massacre is difficult to comprehend. Contemporary accounts, likely exaggerated, but reflecting the sheer horror of the event, claim that anywhere from 200,000 to over 1 million people were killed. The Tigris River was said to have run red with the blood of the slaughtered, and then, days later, black with the ink of countless manuscripts thrown into its waters. This was not just a physical destruction. It was a cultural apocalypse. The magnificent house of wisdom, the intellectual heart of the Islamic world, was utterly destroyed. Its vast collection of books on medicine, astronomy, mathematics, and philosophy, the accumulated knowledge of centuries. including priceless translations of Greek and Persian texts, was systematically annihilated. Libraries and palaces were burned to the ground. Mosques, hospitals, and schools were pillaged and razed. The grand canals and irrigation systems that had made the region fertile for millennia were destroyed, turning lush farmland into barren swamp and desert for centuries to come. The city that had been the center of the world was reduced to a smoldering ruin. And what of the Caliph, Al-Mustasim? According to Mongol tradition, it was taboo to spill royal blood upon the earth. So, Hulagu had a different fate in mind for the last Abbasid Caliph. He was forced to watch the murder of his people and the looting of his treasures. Then, he and his sons were wrapped in a carpet and trampled to death by horses. With his death, the 500-year-old Abbasid Caliphate, the dynasty that had overseen the Islamic Golden Age, came to a brutal and definitive end. The spiritual leadership of the Sunni Muslim world was shattered. The Sack of Baghdad in 1258 was a profound turning point in world history. It marked the end of the Islamic Golden Age and a catastrophic blow to a civilization that had led the world in science and culture. The destruction was so complete that Baghdad would not regain its former prominence for many centuries. The psychological shockwave rippled across the Muslim world. How could God allow the city of the Caliph, the center of their faith, to be so utterly obliterated? It was a crisis of faith and identity. But history is never a simple story of endings. While the Mongols were seen as destroyers, their vast empire also facilitated unprecedented cultural exchange across the Silk Road. And in a strange twist of fate, many of Hulag's descendants, the rulers of the Ilkhanate in Persia, would eventually convert to Islam. They became patrons of a new, Persian-influenced Islamic culture, building magnificent mosques and sponsoring the arts and sciences once again. The spirit of Baghdad, though brutally extinguished in 1258, would eventually find new life in other cities, in other forms. The story of the Sack of Baghdad serves as a powerful and tragic reminder of the fragility of civilization. It shows how even the greatest centers of learning and culture can be swept away by the tides of history and the ferocity of human conflict. The ghost of the House of Wisdom and the memory of a river running black with ink are a testament to what the world lost in that terrible week in 1258. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this journey into the past compelling, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into the pivotal moments that shaped our world. Let us know in the comments what other historical events you'd like to see us cover. We'll see you in the next one.